My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, on Twitter, and now on YouTube as of tonight. So, I just got off from talking with Ron Bellin there just a second ago on his show. And so bear with me. I now have another thing in the equation. That's why I had the camera off. I'm still not truly figuring out YouTube and how we start the stream. I guess it just starts when there's no on-off button. So we are streaming on YouTube now. So anybody who's texting on there, let me know if you can hear this. And we're going to talk. We are going to talk about the congressional shooting and how this leftist mentality is now the face of domestic terrorism in this country. It is what it is. Let's talk about it. All right, so we're loud and clear. Now you can go ahead and you can start sharing with social media. You can tell everybody that, hey, check it out. These guys are now, we're on Facebook Live, we are on Twitter, and we're on YouTube. So if for the people that are watching on Twitter right now, and I've got to put a meme together to get this out. I have to start letting people know that there's alternatives besides Facebook and even Twitter now. And so on this Restream platform, I can stream up to 30 different networks or different platforms. So we have to, if you know of other platforms where there's a lot of people watching, let me know. Send me a direct message on either Facebook or Twitter. I guess you could do it on YouTube as well. Let me know and I can add to those as well. Let me pull up Twitter here and make sure that it's on there. Again, I'm all over the place with all this stuff, all this technology. I need another iPad for sure, and possibly 2 more iPads. So anybody who wants to donate an old iPad, doesn't have to be a new one. I just need to be able to see where I can look at the comments that are coming up. I can't wait to see this one person's comment that tried to say that I was an idiot and that I was a stupid veteran. They say they're a veteran too, but if I have to use my training and expertise in dissemination, I bet this guy or girl, whoever it is, was a Blue Falcon. And anybody that knows what BF stands for, buddy screwer, somebody who would screw their buddies over. I'm sure that's probably what this person was, but I'm not going to get to their stuff right now. What we're going to do, though, is, let me get to my Twitter page here. I'll show you all what I'm doing. I've got my iPad to the left. I've now got my Twitter. Yeah, there you go. So my Twitter is here. My iPad is to the left. And on my computer to the right, where I've logged into YouTube, there actually is a couple people that used to be on Facebook over there. Now Colleen is over there, but you guys are going to need to be on. They're going to miss you, Colleen, over on Facebook. You and Gordon and Russ. But listen, that's fine. It's fine that you guys are spreading the love. So, okay, let's get started on this. So, this shooting that happened today, okay, what we do know about this guy, James Hodgkins, was right off the bat, my researcher and her merry band of hackers that I don't know who they are, but she does know who they are. Incredible at getting me quick and effective information. I started getting immediate texts with the pictures of this person's friends. They were off of Facebook. They were pulling them down. And I'm going to look into this more for tomorrow's show, most likely. This individual, James Hodgkins, was one thing. Let's start naming it off. One, he is a Bernie Sanders supporter. He is a typical anarchist, which is another word for a communist. Communists use these types of people. And by the way, let me just say this real quick, okay? The speed and action in which people responded last night to this absurd and I would have to say potentially criminal person on Twitter that and I wish I hadn't ever said the name of it last night. It was grotesque. It was about children and rape of children. This some weirdo came up on Twitter and was putting that out. People jumped on it. They notified Twitter, and I helped. Not helped, but after I got off, I went and reported it to Twitter as well. I guess that account was pulled down. But look, what use does it really do pulling the account down if we don't know anything about the person that actually was tweeting that out? We need to find out about these types of people, especially that was a violent pedophile type of thing that they kept putting out over and over again. If you all see that, just throw hearts up like crazy. Do something. You'll get my attention, and I will look down here, and then we will notify Twitter as soon as possible. You guys can notify them. I'll block them so they can't come back up on here. But I wanted to thank everybody for the speedy response for that. That was good. Okay, so this shooter, James Hodgkins, who went and shot a congressman and some staffers and at least 2 law enforcement officers that were shot today in Washington, D.C. while they were practicing for the congressional baseball game. Now, this baseball game is where the Democrats play the Republicans. And, congressmen, by and large, and I'm going to get into that in the A or B block about how we make congressmen safer, but the guy walks up, James Hodgkins walks up and asks, who are they? Somebody said, that's the Republicans, congressman. They're practicing for the baseball game. He goes over, pulls out from what the reports that I'm hearing, a long gun, potentially an AR-15. Not exactly sure if that was the case. I haven't had confirmation on that, unless somebody else has seen that. But he pulled out a long gun. Nobody sees that. Nobody's aware enough to see some guy walking, asking suspicious. As soon as somebody asks me something like that, if they don't have like some kind of face where they're like, oh, it's the Republicans. No. He walks over there, pulls a long gun out of whatever he had it in, and then starts shooting. And there's a videotape out where people just kind of walking around trying to figure out what to do. We're going to go into this and right before I go to the truth zone. Folks, you have to become aware. You have to have a plan, and you can't have a plan if you don't understand the reality of what's going on or where the potential of attacks are, what soft targets are. If you don't know that congressmen are under a threat, somebody just asked on Twitter, was there security? Look, there's over 400 congressmen. Okay, there's I think 90 senators, over 400 congressmen, and 1 president. Okay, so it's easier to protect senators and the president. So many congressmen that it's difficult to protect each one. But I am shocked that the only real security that was there were people that were guarding the congressman that was shot, because he is the majority whip, which is so he's got a leadership role. So they put a detail on him. They were 435 reps, 100 senators. Sorry if my mind's all over the place right now. So thank you very much. I'm astounded. I'm a little shocked that they would have a soft target, event like this where the Republicans are not just playing the game, where they're actually practicing, and not protect that, not put up enough cops around there to be monitoring what's going on, not gabbing and talking and sitting in their cars. I'm talking about taking these threats real, and the people that go up there should be taking this stuff for real. So we'll get into that more in a minute. This guy walks up, pulls out a gun, starts shooting. I start getting information about it. My mistake, because I'm writing a book, and so I'm up late, really late, like we're talking 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I've got to get out of that habit, because then if something like this, inevitably it happens early in the morning, I start getting calls. I'm like, what's going on? So I get up, and my analysts and other people start sending me stuff. This guy is a Bernie Sanders supporter. He worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign. He is a Trump hater. He's a government hater. He's an anarchist. He's no different than Antifa. He's no different than BAMN. That's the group that the mayor of Berkeley belongs to. He's no different in his beliefs than these leftist judges that are in the Ninth Circuit Court or in Hawaii. All these people that Black Lives Matter, that are separatist group, they are all, listen very closely, they are all Marxists. Now, I don't care what they feel. I don't care what they think. The reality is they are Marxist. I'm getting some feedback here somewhere. So, it's important for you to remember that, folks, because as I continue to talk about this guy and the people that he's evidently associated with, all right, this guy, from the information I was getting, is associated closely with activists and organizers of protests and demonstrations. What we're seeing here is not a crazy person. All right, you may be able to say, of course the guy's crazy. He went out and shot a bunch of people. Yes, that's true. All right, legally, I don't think this guy's crazy. He's shown that he has an organized thought process where he specifically hates these people, and he specifically went after them to shoot them versus all government people, versus anybody that might be liberal. He went after conservatives. Okay, so you have to realize these people are organized. Black Lives Matter, walking around saying, basically shoot cops, fry them up like bacon, whatever they were saying. I don't remember the rhyme. Then they had a shooter in Dallas. Then they had a shooter in Louisiana. Okay? That's the way this works. Remember, folks, the experiment that I talked about with Stanley Milgram, where it showed, and if you study Stanley Milgram, what you're going to see is that there's only going to be a percentage of anybody that feels in any certain way that are actually going to be they're action-oriented, that are going to be carrying out operations, whether it be killing, protesting, whatever. There's only going to be certain amounts of those people that do it. There's going to be a large amount of people that support it, actively speaking out and saying, yes, we support them, or we feel like they do. And then there's going to be an even larger number of people that feel that way, support it, but they're not actively involved and they don't really voice their opinion. But when it comes right down to it, they will stand side by side with those people. Now, Dr. Stanley Milgram showed this in his experiment. He was trying to figure out why the Germans followed Hitler and didn't protest or go against him and stop the massacre of the Jews. And I think we could apply this to fundamental Islam, and we can certainly apply this to Marxists, communists, socialists, globalists, whatever you want to call them, leftists. They're communists. That's what they are. So we need to realize that when one of these shootings happened, we've now had at least 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've had 2 Black Lives Matter shootings, and one now with this guy who's a left, says he's a socialist, but is a confessed leftist, okay? We need to realize these are all related. It's the same movement. It's the same blocking of the president's. I know that there's going to be people that are, I can't read every tweet and every comment. There's got all this going on now. People are going to be saying, you're stretching this a little bit when you're saying that the federal judges that block the immigration executive order that they're related to this or in collusion with this. It's not a stretch, folks. These people take their marching orders and get their ideology from a thought process that's thousands of years old and was really perfected by Marx, perfected in an evil way. Not even 100 years after this country was founded, they started. Marx was around the 1840s. Not even 100 years after freedom had set foot in America. So these individuals, whether it's the judges in the Ninth Circuit District, Ninth District, Ninth Circuit, and up in and around the California and Berkeley area, all that stuff up there, whether it's that the communist judge that lives in Hawaii that was Barack Obama's schoolmate in law school, I believe it was, whether it's somebody like Kathy Griffin, whether it's somebody like the shooter today, Ninth Circuit Court, thank you very much, whether it's somebody like the Berkeley mayor, the chief of police in Berkeley, Antifa, BAMN, Black Lives Matter, Black Panthers, all these people, the gay activists, and you got to remember, there's not a racist bone in my body. There's not a sexist bone in my body. I'm not a misogynist or a homophobic person, anything like that. I say live and let live in this country. If you don't like it, don't get involved with it. And if somebody doesn't like you, don't take it personal. That's just the way they feel. They're free to feel that way, right? That's the way I feel. But what people have to realize, if you're gay, that's just your sexuality. There's no thing in you that says you have to go join some activist movement that totally supports the Democratic Party, right? If you have dark skin, there is no brain cells in your skin. There's nothing that makes you less or more of a person. There's nothing that makes another person that has dark skin any more your brother than I am. That is an illusion that you've been sold under by a divisive culture. All right? If you're a woman, you have as many freedoms in this country as I do. And listen, I will fight for your freedoms. I will give my life. Listen to this when I tell you this. I would lay my life down, not just for your life, for your freedoms. What good are my freedoms if every woman in this country didn't have the same freedoms as I do? What good would it be for me to be free? To live in a lie in a country that says it's free when you have other people that are oppressed. I would lay my life down and give my life and those freedoms up to secure those freedoms for you all. But you know what? We don't have to do that now. That was done by literally thousands and thousands and thousands of slaves, by thousands, millions of women who suffered oppression. As society and the world advanced, it wasn't just America. People always talk about, I know I'm going way off the rails here, but people always talk about, these leftists, like this guy, James Hodgkins. Oh, they always talk about, like Kathy Griffin or these Ninth Circuit judges, like Barack Obama or the Hillary Clinton. They always talk about the founding fathers as though they were some kind of just alone, like they were racist and they were sexist. But I have news for you. The whole world was like that at that point because humanity had not evolved at that point. Maybe at one point women were freer in some countries than in others, but at that point in time when the United States became a nation, there really, not in modern history, not in recorded history, had there ever been anything like the United States. And the Constitution that they put into effect is, in fact, what gave those people that were oppressed because of the culture of the world, the Constitution that was put in place, put a series of events in motion that allowed the slaves to eventually be freed, that allowed women to eventually have their constitutional rights, that allowed somebody not to be judged or to be prejudiced against because of their sexuality. You see, that's the country that we live in, folks. That's the truth. Free thinkers, freedom. It comes with a price. And that price is blood. Now, you can't sit back and just be comfortable. People like these individuals on the left are out to steal your freedom. I know we've got a lot of people watching this show right now. I know a lot of people think that this is over the top, that I'm some kind of Alex Jones person. Listen, I don't know who Alex Jones is. I don't know him, never met him. I know one thing, his resume doesn't stack up to mine. I've served your freedom. I've paid the price in blood and just in training, just in giving up my life over 15 years. There's men and women that have given their lives far beyond what I've done. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm telling you, this is happening in this country. This guy today is going to be the face of domestic terrorism as you know it. It's already happening. It's not that it's a white face. It's a communist face. There's a thing called the Red-Green Alliance. We've had a show on this before. Islam and communism for a long time have been milking themselves in together. Islam does that. They're like a parasite that latches on to communism, to fascism, an entire Panther division under the German SS was ran by the Palestinians against the Jews in World War II. This is nothing new. If you're Muslim, you should figure this out and know this yourself. Okay? I'm not a Muslim. If I know it, you sure as heck should know it, because you should understand what's going on inside your religion. Now, where am I going with this? The Red-Green Alliance, it is strong. There's proof that the Muslim Brotherhood had been banding with communists, and we're talking communists. Yeah, we're using that word, communist. Saul Alinsky, Hillary Clinton's mentor, she wrote her thesis statement paper about Saul Alinsky, professed communist. His book, Rules for Radicals, right off the bat, the first page tells everybody he's a communist. Before that page, where he's doing all the thank yous and giving people credit, he credits Lucifer for being the first rebel. And he says in an interview I watched, he said, if you had to choose between heaven and hell, he'd rather go to hell to live with rebels than he would to go to heaven to live with people that were just appeased a power. That's how crazy this guy was. He himself, if he was alive, would be active in the same Democratic Party that almost got Hillary Clinton elected. If you're liberal, if that's how you term yourself, you need to take a step back and look at the reality of what's going on. If you're conservative and you say, well, I'm a Republican, you need to take a step back and realize what's going on. The Republican establishment's not got your best interests at heart. If they did, they would have had a solution for health care when President Trump took over, but they did not. And now, what do? The same thing the Democrats did. Let us just pass this and then we'll figure it out. These people don't have your best interest at heart. 2 days ago, I did a show talking about Company A or Company D, that's the Democrats, and Company R, Republicans. Two private companies. You need to realize that. And then Company A, that's America. It's a republic, not a democracy. We don't go by mob rule. I don't know where this came from. I was taught this in high school, in elementary and high school, and in college. I have a degree in political science. You live in a democracy. We go by majority votes on this, and that's the way it runs. Well, yeah, when you're talking about President of the United States. But when it comes to your constitutional rights, your rights will not be violated. It doesn't matter if all the people in this country, and I just heard this from another SEAL, there's an amazing guy that I just talked to. I haven't talked to him in a while. If the whole country is turned communist and only one person remains that identifies with the Republic and is a free person, the Constitution and the freedoms granted by God through that Constitution still pertains to that man or woman, and they must be protected by our government. It doesn't matter if there's 300 million communists in this country. If there's one free person, the Constitution must guarantee those rights. That's what we live in, a republic, not a democracy. We need to start realizing that these terms that we've been given have been handed to us by communists. That the parties, they are private companies, and they are utilized by organized crime and by communists to dictate how we live. If you don't see this now, you probably will never see this. This is not a conservative liberal argument. This is a reality argument. And the people on the left, I'm not going to say far left, in the Democratic Party are communist. Bernie Sanders is a communist. James Hodgkins, the guy that shot up the Republican practice today for a baseball game, was a communist. I don't know where he is now, but I know he's not an American citizen now. He's not here. The fact that when my analysts looked at the Facebook page of this individual immediately after it happened, they found out who it was, they started looking at the page, the fact that there are known activists and organizers that are friends with him on Facebook, and that he had participated in some of those things, that he was a volunteer for Bernie Sanders, should show you the level of collusion. Now, I want to play this real quick. I'm going to have to step out of Twitter here for just a second. And I want you all to listen to this, okay? A second. Sorry, it played back there for a second. Okay, so this was what I heard on CNN right after this attack had happened. And remember, folks, this is an attack that is, the guy clearly has leftist views. It's clear, it's evident. There's no guessing work. You can look at his page, and everything there has to do with socialism. Again, it's communism. I'm going to keep saying that, correcting everybody. It's communism, okay? His page had everything to do with that. Hatred of Trump, hatred of conservatives, hatred of government. This person is exactly what the left wants. They want warriors like this. Good thing they're so idiotic that they don't even realize the guy was a terrible shot. Okay, but I go turn on CNN, and this is what I hear. Now listen, they're not talking about the reality like we're talking about right now, the reality of what's going on with communism. They're not talking about the reality of that this guy was a leftist. Of course they're not saying any of this stuff. Okay, it's CNN. I used to be a contributor at CNN. They're communist. They're communists, they're activists, and it's a sick place. Okay, it's a propaganda tool. It's the propaganda arm of the family tree of the Communist Party. CNN, MSNBC, and mainstream media, New York Times, so on and so forth. Listen to the hard-hitting reporting that was coming out right after the attack today.
And David Shelley, enjoying the conversation. It is sad, beyond sad, that it takes such a tragedy, a horrific, cowardly act, someone deciding to open fire on a field of congressmen, staff, and 2 Capitol Police officers to bring this out in Washington. The Speaker talking about a family. Nancy Pelosi actually drawing laughter on this difficult day by saying, I'll do something I will never do before, saying I associate myself with the remarks from the Speaker and the President.
Way to go, Nancy Pelosi. That's real leadership. Drawing a laugh at the expense of a congressman that is almost dead, 2 cops that were shot, and some staffers, and a lost soul, Jim Hodgkins, that was a leftist that belonged to your party, Nancy Pelosi, and you want to make a joke out of that.
The United States at the White House, also delivering a very thoughtful, very respectful, very moving tribute, and very essentially a call for support and unity in the country.
Yeah, John, this is political leadership.
Okay, so this guy that's about to talk here is one of CNN's heavy-hitting political analysts, okay?
Political leadership at its best. This is 3 leaders we've now seen in President Trump.
All right, I got to play that again.
John, this is political leadership at its best. This is...
See, this is what I'm talking about, folks. They weren't sitting there talking about the reality of who this shooter was, or the fact that he was a leftist, the fact that he had socialist, communist ties, the fact that he volunteered on Bernie Sanders' campaign. Let me tell you, if this guy had volunteered on Donald Trump or Ted Cruz campaign, it would be nonstop for 48 hours. nonstop. They would just not quit talking about it. And the next thing you know, you'd have some loudmouth like Maxine Waters saying that the president should be impeached or Ted Cruz should be removed from office because this guy was a volunteer. But all they did today was he was a volunteer on Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders comes out. I denounce this. The same guy who was slamming a Christian the other day because a Christian had his ideology of what Christianity is, and Bernie Sanders couldn't handle that because he's an atheist and he doesn't understand. He understands First Amendment. He hates the First Amendment, and so he tried to slam this guy. And that's so. Anyway. They always breeze right over this nonsense. If it's the other way around, it's crazy. Let's go on, listen to this.
3 leaders we've now seen in President Trump, Speaker Ryan, Leader Pelosi step up and really appeal to.
I got to hear that again.
3 leaders we've now seen in President Trump, Speaker Ryan, Leader Pelosi.
President Trump, Speaker Ryan, and Leader Pelosi.
Step up and really appeal to that nature of togetherness here. Donald Trump, the president, in his remarks said a reminder to everyone that I think is so important here, that everyone that comes to serve in this town, whether as a member of Congress or as a staff member or to serve certainly in the Capitol Police, they do so out of a love of country. And we're not...
I'm going to continue not to curse on this show. I'm not a big cursor. But that's a bunch of crap, okay? These people don't go to Washington. Nancy Pelosi didn't go to Washington, D.C. Paul Ryan didn't go to Washington, D.C. because of love of country. All right, I know men and women who have served for love of country. I know people who've given their life for love of country. That dedication, somebody who dedicates their life to the country, would never, ever allow what's happening in this country to go on, especially after 30 years. John McCain loved this country and flew into battle and was a prisoner of war. You fast forward 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is, since he served. The guy's a complete failure and does nothing on a daily basis to stop anything that's going wrong in this country. In fact, he stands in the way of it, just like Paul Ryan, just like Nancy Pelosi, just like the majority of politicians up there. If you were motivated by love of country and you were a politician, and what happened with James Comey when he came in there and was testifying the other day and said that he created a memo and then gave it to his friend, a professor at Columbia University, who could then leak it to the New York Times. If you had such love of country and you were serving in Congress or in the Senate because of love of country, because I know this is what I would have done. I would have stood up and I would have slammed whatever book or whatever I had down, and I would have said, this is treasonous. You purposely, and then they would say, oh, your time is, I would have said, forget the time, because I'm going to walk right out of here. I will not serve in a government that does not police the people in the government. There is no ruling class. There is no elitist. There is no people who have an upper hand on the law and don't have to succumb to the same penalties and punishments for doing the same crimes as those that are working in the trenches. I will not stand for it. And I would have walked out of that room. That's love of country. And then I would have sat there and I would have done something where I would stepped up and sat right in the middle of the floor and said, I'm not leaving until this guy is in handcuffs for just admitting to a felony. That's love of country, folks. These people that show up to Congress and to the Senate and they stay there for 30 years, these judges that milk their way into the political system and get appointed as a federal judge, these political appointees like James Comey, they are all reflective of the crazies like this guy, James Hodgkins, that went and shot up this baseball game today. They are completely reflective of the people like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, BAMN, the the judges in the Ninth Circuit Court, the mayor of Berkeley. These people are absolutely reflective of that. They don't love their country. They love themselves. They love their ideas of what they believe is right or wrong, and they hate the Constitution. Otherwise, they would be fighting on a daily basis for what is right and for what is going wrong in this country. Baltimore, Maryland, let me tell you something. If their politicians believed in the Constitution and in this country, they would have said, listen, the police department in Baltimore, if they have laws and policies on the books that say you're supposed to buckle somebody in and they're not buckled in and they're not enforcing that policy, the executives in that law enforcement agency are going to be the ones that are punished. And then everybody's going to be held accountable for that. That guy, Freddie Gray, died because he was a criminal and he put himself in the wrong position. And because policies weren't being enforced by the Democrats that rule that city, people are going to pay for that. And then they should have said, the people of Baltimore, there's going to be no riots. We already have plans for this. See, if you love your country, you're already going to have plans for all this. They should have said, there are going to be no riots. People are going to start cleaning up this city. There's going to be no graffiti. There's going to be no trash on the ground. People are going to start being respectful to each other, because if we start getting complaints, people are going to get arrested. You're going to get kicked out of public housing. You're going to be kicked off welfare if you get in trouble with the cops. You're going to be drug tested if you're on welfare. If you fail those drug tests, then you're off of welfare and you're kicked out of the city. You see, if you love your country, you're going to hold the citizens to a standard. And the citizens who love their country will live up to that standard. None of that is happening. None of it. And that's why you have nonsense like this shooting that happened today. One, you got this communist left that keeps going out and saying, we are communists. We're advocating the overthrow of the government and the Constitution. And we're not arresting those people. They put masks on their faces. They injure people using force and violence and intimidation, and they're not considered terrorists. They say they want to overthrow the government, and they're not considered treasonous. They knowingly leak information that injures the national security of this country. We have media that takes stolen information of top secret value that does nothing to change anything in the government, and they purposely put that stuff out, getting sources identified, in some cases killed, and they're not punished for that. They're not held to the standard that if I took a stolen car that somebody had been killed with, or that I drove it off and killed somebody with, I would be arrested for that, for sure. They're not held to that standard. The American people are not engaged. And that's what's allowing this to happen. Now, I know I went all over the place with that, but this is the truth. I was saying, you guys know, earlier this week, you can go back and watch the show. I said that the time for dialogue is ongoing. It's always ongoing. But the time for action is now. I said that earlier this week, and sure as heck, this guy comes out and purposely shoots Republicans. Let me put this back up on Twitter. So the numbers on Twitter are high tonight. The numbers on Facebook are high tonight. I don't know about YouTube. I haven't got that figured out yet. Only 7 people watching. I don't know how to promote YouTube, so we'll have to get to that. But listen, here's what I want. Before I go to the A block, here's what I want to talk about. Okay, you see this GoFundMe page? It's right here on the bottom. I'm not using this, what happened today, to spin that out, but this is a good example. Okay, involvement. The people that have given. There's been a little over 300 people that have given to the GoFundMe page. Those people are making a commitment. They give up a drink on the weekend, or when they go to dinner, they give up on an appetizer. They donate that money to the GoFundMe page, and that's what keeps this show going. In turn, you get informed by somebody who has real experience, 15 years of different types of government service, and as a police officer, Navy SEAL officer, federal air marshal, security contractor, and FBI special agent. I've done a lot of things. I come from poverty. I come from a home where my father died when I was 13. Their mom and dad were divorced when I was 9. I have 3 sisters, no brothers, lived in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas. All right? I grew up with nothing. And I learned about service and dedication early on. I take my role in service to you very seriously. I'm not just a talking head. And if I don't know it, I go find somebody who does. I don't act like I do. And I would advise you all that are watching that you screen people and networks for the same quality. If you turn on Fox or you turn on CNN or MSNBC or One American News or Newsmax or 60 Minutes or ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News or Fox Channel, look, if they're putting out stuff and stuff is being put out by people that don't have experience, they just have journalists behind their name, turn it off. Turn it off. Start looking for alternative sources, primarily people who have real experience. Engage them. You want to see what's going on, you see the breaking news, call somebody you know that's in law enforcement or veteran and say, what do you think's going on? Or tune in here. Direct message me. Say, can you talk about this? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It depends on how full this stuff is. But don't think that just because the TV has pretty cobalt blue and red all over the place and good-looking women, listen, they have good-looking women on TV on the news networks. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here. I'm a red-blooded male. I turn the TV on. There's good-looking women on there. That's why Spanish TV, you can't even turn it on for 30 seconds without seeing cleavage everywhere. They figured it out. But if you want to be informed, you better start looking for experience, not shiny things and pretty things. You got to start looking for experience. Now, with that, just because you're looking for alternative sources, because Alex Jones says, hey, I know this, doesn't mean Alex Jones knows anything. Dennis Michael Lynch, Harlan Hill. I used to be on the set with this guy, Harlan Hill, with his bow tie, and he's like 26 years old, done nothing but graduated college, but he's got this, shtick. Look, I'm not going to say things behind people's backs, okay? Dennis Michael Lynch is a narcissist who put a bunch of people in Newsmax out of work and walked off set. Don't bash Jones too hard. I don't know which Jones you're talking about. Oh, Alex Jones. I don't know Alex Jones, but I know if you have to look at alternative sources that have experience. I don't know what experience Alex Jones has. Look at Ron Bellin. He was just on earlier. I was on his show earlier. That guy's Master Chief in the SEAL teams, was in war. The guy knows the reality of leading men and women and where it breaks down and the reality of who our enemies are. Look towards that guy. I don't say these things so people look at me and say, oh, that guy's, he's done all these things. Look, I'm a failure. All right? I'm a failure in a lot of ways. You're going to find that people that succeed fail more than those that don't succeed, because those that don't succeed don't try. I've failed so many times and all these things, but what's interesting is the more you try, the more you fail, the closer you get to success, the more knowledge, understanding, and experience you get, and that's what wisdom is all about. I'm no great know-it-all, but I'm somebody who's paid the price, who's failed and turned around and continued to push forward, and I've seen the grotesque mismanagement in government and the gross negligence of the American citizenry because they are comfortable. And they've forgotten that freedom must be paid for by blood. It's true. It's absolutely true. Whether God demands it or life demands it, there's going to be bloodshed. If you want to get freedom and if you want to keep it, you're going to have to shed blood and sweat and tears and uncomfortableness. It all comes along with it. But what do you get in turn for that? the ability to think freely, the ability to say, this is what I want to be. Well, somebody said on Twitter, question is, whose blood? Your blood, my blood. Whoever steps up to the plate at that time and destiny calls on their blood, that's what's going to be shed. That's who's going to be shed. For over 100 years in this country, it was people who did not volunteer their blood, slaves, women who were oppressed, people who were judged based on their color of their skin or their gender or sexuality. They bled. They didn't ask to bleed. They just wanted the same rights. Unfortunately, in those groups of suffrage were the slithering serpents of communism and fundamental Islam that have worked their way through this. And now they've created a politically incorrect world where you can't say, no, you cannot say if you say the N-word, look, I don't use the N-word, but if somebody uses the N-word that's conservative, your career is done. You're never going to be hired somewhere else. Bill Maher says it. I forgive him. You go and do some kind of depiction of Nancy Pelosi's head or Barack Obama's head or Ariana Grande, if you held her head up like Kathy Griffin did with Donald Trump's head, you are going to be investigated by some type of authority somewhere. And quite frankly, you may be charged with something. Kathy Griffin, she suffered the wrath of the people. The government didn't do a thing to her. Madonna said she wanted to blow up the White House. Nothing happened to her. You say that, I guarantee you're going to get investigated. They have a play in Central Park where it is a grotesque depiction of the killing of Donald Trump. It looks real, and people cheered. What is going on in this country, folks? Seriously. We have to start stepping up to the plate. I mean, the time for action's now. They're taking it. Are you going to sit back and let them kill more people? I'm not calling people to arms. What I'm calling you to is you got to start having dialogue. You got to start standing up to these politicians. There should be a mutiny this is what I am calling for, a mutiny in the Republican Party. There should be a mutiny. I don't think the Democratic Party can be saved. What I think should happen is liberals who are free thinkers and people that are not prone to communistic ideas should go ahead and come over to the Republican Party, and the Republicans that are conservatives should drop the nonsense of this is never going to be this way, and people should start having dialogue and looking for realistic solutions to stuff, and they should oust the GOP establishment and get rid of them. Period. You cannot send people to Washington, D.C. and expect them to, as I said on Ron Bellum's show the other day, or earlier today, you cannot expect people to go to Washington, D.C. and keep you safe. And you cannot expect law enforcement to save you. Listen to me very closely. Out of all the things I've said today, I want you to listen to me when I tell you this. Every single person watching this show right now, you are the first responders in this country. You will be the first ones at a terrorist attack. You will be the first ones at a murder scene. You will be the first ones when a crisis such as a hurricane or a tornado or something like that happens. When your child chokes, you're the first one there. When you are running down the road or you have a car crash or somebody hits you, you are the first one there. And when it comes to securing your freedom, you are the one that has to fight for that freedom. The military, the politicians, those people serve a very specific purpose. But politicians aren't going to fight for your freedom. They're not fighting anything. They're compromising and colluding is what they're doing. The military is being tasked to do things that, quite frankly, will never end the war on terror. The DEA is doing things that will never end the war on drugs. They're being dictated in how they're going to fight this stuff. Immigration, unless the current president gets a hold on this stuff, it's not going to be fixed. The war on drugs, never fixed. We live in a country, I don't know if you believe in pro-choice or not, but we live in a country where a fetus that can live on its own is allowed to be killed and not given the rights that people hem and haw and cry about, that they think that they don't have, and they freak out because they say, oh, I don't, there's a glass ceiling and a woman can't go and make the same amount of money as a man, and this is a violation of our constitutional rights and we're oppressed. But yet they still have the freedom to live. They do have the freedom to achieve whatever they want. Their freedoms are guaranteed by the Constitution, but yet these people still think because something is this big, even though it could live outside the womb, it's okay to kill it because it's still inside somebody else. You see, we're all over the place, folks. It's time to start taking action. You have to understand your country. You have to understand your Constitution. You have to understand the reality of your constitutional rights. And you have to start standing together, training together, working together. Because here's what's happening. Just like Satan knows the Bible better than any of us. He knows those verses. He tried to trick Jesus and tempt him with Bible verses. And he picked specific ones to tempt him to jump off the cliff, to ask for food, to be taken care of. Well, it's the same thing here, folks. These communists, these leftists, they know the Constitution better than you do. They know the reality of freedom better than you do and what's going to happen if that freedom is taken away. They've been taking away your freedom slowly but surely. You cannot own or even carry or own a gun in most of the cities in this country. Yet you're the first responder and you can't even take care of yourself. Police officers do their best, but there's no force multiplier anymore. Our children aren't disciplined. Our adults aren't disciplined. Children can't even be spanked without somebody thinking that it's child abuse. I remember when I was in high school, I was still getting paddled. And in a lot of those cases, why you don't live in the city? Somebody just said there. I have to live in the city because my job keeps me here. But there's no force multiplier for law enforcement. It's really up to us to be the first force multiplier, the first responders, to be the defenders of the Constitution. There's nobody, folks, there's nobody that is going to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, inside the country other than you. Law enforcement's not going to do it. They may ensure your civil rights, but they're not going to defend the Constitution from the real domestic enemy because they're being told who, where, and when, and why they will do what they do, and they're being told that by the domestic enemy, which is the leftist and the elitist and the globalists that run Washington, D.C. That's the truth. Let's go to the A block. We'll go ahead and do one block, and then we'll get out of here. So I know that was one long warning order, okay? So, hold on, let me take a drink of water. All right, here's my solution to how we protect Congress. Go home. I feel like, was that Billy Madison where he was talking to the golf ball? Or was that Happy Gilmore? Happy Gilmore. He's telling the ball, just go home. Go home. That's your home. You belong there. Go. Being a congressman was supposed to be a part-time job. How did this turn into a full-time job? If you're a congressman, keep your ass at home where you're supposed to be. Get to know your constituents. If you don't know your constituents, if you're not meeting with them on a weekly basis and trying to find out the reality of what's going on in your state, in your district, and you're spending all your time in Washington, D.C., you're doing it wrong. You need to go home. There's 100% guarantee if you were home with your constituents today, you would not have been shot at. And the state police in your state probably would be protecting you. And the people in your state would protect you. Go home. Do your job from home. That's where you're supposed to do it from. This nonsense about having all these people all the time up there in Washington, D.C., and every 2 years are running for re-election, which means they don't even really get a full year of service in Washington, D.C. Keep your ass at home. Run for election and stay at home. Vote from home. They need to have some way where they can vote from home. You don't even need to go to Washington, D.C. anymore if you're a congressman. Senators, I can kind of understand if they're somewhat full-time. There's 100 senators, so they can stay there. I don't care. But the problem with that as well is that they become elitist. But if you want to protect Congress, just stay at home. All right, David, be safe. See, Congress doesn't need 5 weeks off. They need to be working all the time until things are fixed. If this country's not fixed, if we barely have the government funded, if we're trillions of dollars in debt, and you run for you run for any role in the government, you should just go ahead and say, all right, I have 2 years of service. I'm not going to have a vacation for 2 years. Your job is to fix this stuff. Not take 5 weeks off. What other job is there where you get 5 weeks off? They work 103 days a year and get paid for 365. That's right. And really what it is they work they show up 103 days a year. I don't know what work they actually do, because other than their self-entitled work, they're really not doing anything for the country. And quite frankly, it's really theft of our taxpayer dollars. That's what it is. Yes, we do need more of a part-time legislature. You know what I wish it was? I'll tell you. There's 4 things that I wish we could put into our society right now. 4 things, okay? I'm not saying that this is only 4 things that I would want, but these 4 things I think would change and modernize a lot of stuff about this country. Let me see if I can remember what they are now. Okay. Number 1, I think that there needs to be a class taught in junior high, high school, and in college called jury duty. I think that every American citizen needs to go through a course to learn how a court works, so that not when you go to jury, I mean, that's part of it, but so that when you're a plaintiff or when you're the defendant, that you're going to get an impartial and trained jury. Because right now what happens is you go to court and you got 12 people up there that know nothing about the law, and you have 2 trained people minimum. Sometimes they have many more lawyers that are trained in the art of stretching ethics to a point where they're comfortable lying as long as they're not breaking the law. So these people we need to know this. And so when you serve as a jury, you're educated in what the reality of what's going on. That's the first thing. Second thing, I think we need to start teaching gun safety and weapons handling in schools. I do. Doesn't mean that the guns have to be loaded. I think that we need to teach so that kids know how a gun works, so they can know how to safely clean a weapon, point a gun, carry it, and understand what their Second Amendment is all about. I believe that they should institute caning. Now, before you freak out when I say that, I think this is the way it should be done. That anybody that's convicted of a violent felony will be given the option of caning. And if they take caning, then the idiot just wrote "get rid of guns" on here. If they pick caning, then what they do is they get a reduced sentence, right, for 10, 12 swats, whatever they get. Well, you can't roll over for like 2 weeks after that. In Singapore, they have virtually no crime because you don't have a choice there. You get caned. But if they choose caning, they get a reduced sentence. They choose it. They get caned. Then they go to their sentence. Then, if they chose the caning and then they reciprocate or they come back and they get arrested again, they automatically get caned. You will see the recidivism rate drop dramatically because people won't want to get caned again. They choose it the first time. The second time, they get it mandatory if they chose it the first time, even though they got a reduced sentence. And the last thing is, I think that Congress and the military, and I know this is going to go against a lot of what constitutionalists believe, but I believe service in the military should be mandatory 2 years. And I think that service in as a Congress person should be on a lottery, just like it is for jury duty. And I think if your name comes up, then you serve from your home as a congressman. I'm not talking about Senate. I'm talking about a congressman. You serve in your district as a congressman part-time for, I don't know, a year or two. And that would put people back into the realization that they have to own and they have to earn their citizenship and their freedom. What is this Dragon Cats thing? How many years did you serve, hero? Are you calling me a hero, Dragon Cats, or are you just being facetious there? Before I call you a name, which one is it? Hold on, folks. I'm not worried about Dragon Cats dogging me. Are you Antifa? Let's see what you have to say there. We'll listen to you for a second. Go ahead. We'll give you this. This is what this show's all about. You have a disagreement with you? I'll give you the stage for a minute, and I'll read your tweets as they go through. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're insulting, hey, hero, okay, you're being insulting. Basic training, drill sergeant stuff, LOL. I don't know where you're going with this. So if you got something to say, I'll read it. If it makes sense, then we'll discuss it. That's what this show's about. It's not just about me. It's about you all and giving you a voice and a stage as well. I know he's just here to say stupid stuff. Well, I'm going to give him a chance. I like to help stupid people out. And then I like to block them. Because, I used to get in these Twitter arguments with people. It was really a good way to practice your debate skills. That's right. I'll give him enough rope. I'll let him burn himself. Where'd he go? And you know what? You're absolutely right. You can't fix stupid, but you sure can have fun with it by sticking their shoe even further down their own throat. I don't know where he went. I'm going to give him one more second here before I start losing numbers. Let's see here. I sure am glad Twitter's starting to respond. We're starting to get more numbers on Twitter. I'm going to have a race between Twitter and Facebook to see how many numbers we can keep. Okay. Block me. 25 of you guys have blocked me. All right, Dragon Cats. I'm not going to block you. What do you got? Let's hear what you have to say. Quit talking about nonsense. And if you're a troll, okay, Gabby Giffords. Okay, go ahead. Let's see it. I mean, look, if you're gonna front me with this, then let's see it. I'm gonna give you a chance to say something. If you come back saying something stupid, I'm just gonna get rid of you. What is the difference between Gabby Giffords and this? The guy that shot Gabby Giffords had no real concept of political change. The guy was crazy. From what I could tell, this guy was fixated on Gabby Giffords and shot up Gabby Giffords. The guy that shot up the baseball field today is now remember, I have a degree in psychology. I'm no great psychologist. I'm not a counselor, but I know enough about the legal system and about the reality of a crazy person. The guy that shot up the baseball field today If you look at his Facebook page and you look at his history, he is making known decisions. We didn't say all the conservatives are crazy. When did that happen? I don't. So this guy made conscious decisions and had formulated his ideals based on the narratives put out by the Democratic Party and the leftist ideology. He is a Trump hater. He is a socialist, a Bernie Sanders supporter. He volunteered for Bernie Sanders' campaign, worked on it, didn't kill anybody there. Obviously, the guy is fixated on a certain specific thing. So I have to ask, is that fixation, is it just something that this person created in their mind, like this person that shot Gabby Giffords, or is this person actually acting out the exact actions that have been pushed upon the people by the left? And I believe if we look at his actions, what he stood for, and what the left has been saying. Okay, most people with brains are Trump haters. Okay, I gave you a chance. Now I will call you an idiot. I gave you a chance. I've got 3 different platforms here that you could have actually said something constructive, or you could have said something in defense of what you actually believe. But this is the facts. You're just a troll. You're a dirty, nasty little troll. My dog took a poop that was worth more than you today. And he's a little dog, so it wasn't a big poop. Let's see what Dragon Turd has to say about that, and then we'll 40% approval for Trump. Pfft. All right. I should take a picture of this. I'm just going to block him. Block. Okay. Dragon Cat's gone. None. Say it with me. No. All right. Idiots. So, getting back to where I was. I can't thank you all enough for being a part of this. I just love looking around here and seeing all this camaraderie and this dialogue and people that, I mean, look, you guys are all, I'm looking at, it's crazy. Of course, there's only 9 people watching on YouTube, but we'll get there. Listen, I'm not going to go much longer. I got to work out tonight. I got to write. And I just want to tell you before I go to the Truth Zone, heck, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about in the Truth Zone tonight. I never write the Truth Zone, and I do the Truth Zone as I'm ending the show. I decide what I'm going to talk about. So it's passion. It's from the heart when I do the Truth Zone. I want to thank everybody for the participation on here. I know people that know me, and they say, you do a show on Facebook Live every night. Is that through a network? No. I built this. I built that. You want to know a secret? I'll tell you a secret. These things used to be like almost silver, and they were the walls to the elevators in my building where I live in New York City. They replaced the walls. These were sitting in the hallway, and I asked the guys, what are you going to do with these things? They said, throw them out. These things weigh like 200. They're literally a wall. This is like 250 pounds each one, maybe 300 pounds. I manned these things into my apartment and out on my terrace, and I had them painted differently before, but I repainted them and designed this, and then latched them together down on the bottom and the top, fixed the lighting. My friends Trish and John made these signs for me. I put the lighting that I learned about all this lighting and stuff from Newsmax and actually the people behind the scenes at CNN and Fox News. I didn't pay for any of this stuff. It's all free. I mean, basically, it's like Kramer. I got this out of the trash. But you know what? Everything else that you see on here, with the exception of my trusty old computer here, all this stuff has been donated. Brand new top-of-the-line iMac that's allowing me to do all this stuff that used to take... people that watch this know I used to have terrible problems with tech problems because of this old MacBook that I have here. All these gigs of hard drives that I have, this mic, I got 2 of these mics. I got this mic stand, the production box. I have the ability to do this because of your donations. Your donations have gotten up to $23,000. And that's cumulative over time since October. But as I always say, okay, we got 100 people watching on Facebook. We got 55 people watching on Twitter. We got 10 people watching on YouTube. If all of you, so 170 people, if you all right now went to the GoFundMe page and donated $20, do you realize what we'd have? I'm no mathematician, but I do have a calculator in front of me. So the 170 people times 20. 170 times 20. Is that right? $3,400. Yeah, that's right. Imagine that, folks. If you did that, we would have enough to that would be the start of my trip that's going to happen in July, to go back out on the road and go towards Texas and Arkansas and interview more people. If we got on Twitter, I have 30,000 followers. If we got all those people to donate $10, we would stay on the road for the rest of the year. Old Rico and I. Why am I bringing this up before I go? For one, I just want to say thank you. My friend Debbie, who donated $200 last night. Colleen has donated a massive amount. Jim DeLong is responsible for all this equipment and has donated massive amounts of money. But many of you have donated $10 and wrote on there, "I'm sorry I couldn't give more." Listen, you're supporting me. You're supporting this show. There's no need for apology there. This is your platform. This is your alternative to the news. The more time I can dedicate to this, and less I have to go out and do whatever the other stuff that I do, the more quality you're going to get, and the more you can turn these the TV off. The more I can coordinate with my good buddy Ron Bellin. The more I can coordinate with Scott Eulinger and Jason Meister and all these people, and we can continue to bring you alternative information and education to mainstream media. Somebody asked me last night on Facebook, they said, "Aren't you media? You're a host on Sirius. You fill in for Sean Hannity on his radio show, and you have this show that you do, and I've seen you on TV. Aren't you media?" No, I am not. I am not a journalist. I'm not a regurgitator of information. If news is breaking or you need to know information, I'm going to give it to you for what it is. If I can tell it's the truth, I will analyze it and help you see the reality of it. And then if I don't know it, I will go out and find real authorities in that area to talk about it. That is not media. That is information. And that is the truth. And that's what this show is all about. It's about truth. It's about dialogue. And it's about unity. You all are my team. And we're all leaders. You can ask anybody. Ron Bellin can tell you. In the SEAL teams, if you're an E4 and I'm an O2, you're just as much of a leader as I am. Period. You have to be a leader. You have to own your position. And you're an American citizen. I'm an American citizen. We have to own these positions. I think that's about it. Let's go to the Truth Zone. So let me just say this real quick let me add this in. That's what I'll talk about in the Truth Zone. Let's go to it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Wait, hold on. Don't go anywhere. Let me see. This is for Ron. This is what it was like the first time I met Ron Bellin when I was just I was a civilian wanting to be a SEAL. Okay, Ron, you listen to this.
Let's do this. Let's go to the Truth Zone now. And let's open some minds. Let me get a drink real quick. Water. That does the body good. I suggest drinking more water. Folks, we're going to go to the Truth Zone now. I'm going to lay the smack down. I can't drop this mic because it's attached to a stick, but if I could, I would drop it at the end of the Truth Zone. Roger that. Alright, you ready to do this? Count it down with me. 10, 9, 8. I'm sorry, I got tired. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ron Bellum, I'm asking for permission to go to the Truth Zone. Over. Master Chief Bellum, how do you copy? We're waiting on approval from on high from Ron Bellum. Over. How do you copy? Waiting on Ron Bellum. I'm going to have to answer for Ron Bellum. A good copy. Okay, roger that. We're going to go to the Truth Zone now. Let's go.
I'm just having fun tonight, folks. I'm having fun because the numbers are good and because the people are energized. And I forgot what I was going to say in the Truth Zone, but I will tell you this. See, that's what happens when we start having fun. We start unifying. It isn't all about blood, sweat, and tears. Ron can tell you, Dave Robinson, who was a Marine, or anybody else, Remo who's in the Navy, anybody who's in law enforcement or in the military can tell you, in the worst times is when you come together and you laugh harder than you will ever laugh. I remember sitting with Ron Bellum and a bunch of guys at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Ron, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a campfire going, and I guess that somebody had dropped a bullet somewhere, and it got heated up and went off. Now, there's no backstop holding that round, so there's no real propulsion to it, but it popped one of the guys in the back, and man, we laughed and laughed and laughed about that because he got shot, but it was by a bullet that came out of the fire. Listen, folks, that's the incredible thing about being free and choosing to unify. When you stand together, it is an amazing experience. And what people would think, well, this is just ridiculous. I'm not going to waste my time at 9, 10 o'clock at night coming on here and listening to this guy and talking to people and on social media. It's not ridiculous. How many people on here a night ask, how do we unify? Who will lead us? You're the leader. And the way you lead is by coming on and partaking in the dialogue. And when people call you to action, you respond. We have gone too far in this country in comfort. We've gone so far in this country that it's literally almost impossible for us to get up off our behinds and stand together. If you think you're going to stand against people like this guy who came and shot up that baseball field today when it's your time and there's more than one, maybe there's 5, maybe there's 10, you better have stood together before that day. And when the government comes to take your freedoms away, you better know how to react to that threat. And the only way you can effectively defeat tyranny is if you're unified and if you're free. Trying to fight out of tyranny is almost impossible. It almost never happens. But fighting against it when it's trying to subvert you, if you're unified, it's a snap. So I suggest we get unified. I suggest we come to Jesus and take a reality check of what's going on. I suggest we drop the terms liberal and conservative, and you decide, are you a free thinker or are you a controlled puppet by the narrative of the Communist Party? I know what I am. I'm a free thinker, and I'm a warrior. Stand with me. Join me. It's time for action. It's time to stand together. I'm Jonathan Gillum. As always, old Rico's over there asleep. And I'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. The truth has arrived. GoFund.me/The Experts Roadshow. That is
GoFund.me/The Experts Roadshow.
You better go do it, or I'm gonna sick Ron Bellin on you. And old Dave Robson, he'll be there too to get you.
Yeah.